President Trump is saying he's the one keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. He posted on social media, Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining that they are not getting paid. SOS. Kenneth Braithwaite is with us now. He served as Secretary of the Navy during the first Trump administration. Thank you so much for being with us to talk about
Always a pleasure, Brianna.
This critical time that we're looking at here. And in the middle of the ceasefire extension, Iran has seized these two ships in the strait. A Greek-linked cargo ship was also attacked. How are you looking at Iran's actions here?
Well, again, I think they're desperate. The blockade's working. I mean, we have the most formidable naval armada that we've ever put together in decades there. We have 3 carrier strike groups. We have 2 amphibious readiness groups. There's over 10 destroyers there. I mean, the firepower that's been amassed there by the U.S. Navy is unprecedented. So I think they're just grasping for straws.
I wonder what this does tell you, though, about the status of Iran's Navy, because obviously completely making it non-operational is one of the stated objectives of this administration, and they have championed that they've been able to do that. But then you look at what's happened here and the capabilities. How much capability does it take to do something like this?
So there's actually 2 navies, Brianna. There's the Iranian Navy, which was decimated, as the president indicated, in some of the initial strikes. So a navy, as we know it, doesn't exist anymore. But what Iran has is the Guards Navy. These are the small, commercially acquired, high-speed boats with, different weapons on board that are close in, and enough of those are swarmed together. It makes a real challenge. There is quality and quantity. And so that's what we're up against now with these small Guards Navy craft.
That sort of drives home the asymmetric nature that the U.S. is facing here.
Absolutely.
So does it matter then, in a way, if you have the big war? Yes, it's such a huge, I think, when it comes to the narrative to see these pictures of big warships that are destroyed. But when you're looking at what even these small vessels can do armed with the right weapons, does it take away from what the Trump administration has said they've accomplished thus far?
I don't think so, but remember, the theater of operations matters, right? You and I both know how narrow the strait is. The channel that goes through there is only 2 miles wide. I mean, the Iranians can stand off up to 1,000 kilometers and be able to target that with Chinese-provided anti-ship missiles. Then on top of that, you have the Guards Navy and the asymmetrical aspect that you just alluded to, and then you have mines that are put in the water. I mean, again, it is a very constrained area to operate in. You could have the greatest Navy, which we do, in the world, and still be up against some of these challenges just because of the environment in which you're operating.
The ceasefire extension that the president agreed to last night does not have a specified end date. And I wonder how much you think that matters.
I think it does matter. I think, to really do what we need to do there, which is to seize the enriched uranium, that's our strategic objective. To do that, we'd have to put boots on the ground. And I think every military leader, all that I've spoken to, many that you've had on this show, that's untenable for America to wrap their arms around, right? I don't think there's the support for that in the United States. So therefore, the president needs this time in order to be able to get to a deal. I'm just hoping that that deal includes making sure that the enriched uranium is ours, and of course it has to open the strait.
The fractured leadership, the damage that has been done to the leadership, and the way that may have fractured some of the communications and the ability to operate as usual is part of the reason why the president's top aides believe they did not hear back from the Iranians yesterday. How are you seeing that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that. The command and control that existed before with the supreme leader, there was no question. Today, really, who is in control, who is in command of both the Iranian forces, the IRGC, what's left of the Iranian Navy, who's speaking on behalf of who? I'm not sure that we really have identified or understood that.
Former Navy explosive ordnance disposal officer Tom Sauer is over at the Magic Wall. Tom, boy, am I glad that you are here, because this big question of what do these mines look like? And I just would love for you to walk us through what it would even take to safely remove them.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Laura. So this is an example of some of the mines that we're likely to find in Iran. Now, keep in mind, as of a couple hours ago, no mines have been found yet. Nothing confirmed, but we do suspect that there are maybe a dozen, maybe more, even in recent days. There might have been some more surreptitious mining by the IRGC Navy. But the main types of mines you're looking at right now that we're thinking about are moored mines, right? It's tethered by a cable or a chain. It's anchored to the seabed floor, and then it floats. It's buoyant, and it rests just below the waterline, typically, so it's hard to see. And it's detonated by either contact, as in it gets hit by a ship, or it has a magnetometer, a giant metal detector on it, whereas if a ship comes near it, it would detonate. Those can be very sophisticated. In fact, you could even have a ship counter on these mines so that it won't detonate on the first ship that goes past it. It might not detonate till the 6th, 7th, or 20th ship that goes past it. And also you have bottom mines that are meant for more shallow water, generally speaking, that also can be set off by a magnetometer or a large chunk of metal, or acoustic. It has microphones, hydrophones that would listen for a ship. And you can also have those same issues with setting off a ship, even maybe not the first ship, the 6th ship, we'll see. So these are like really the main threats that we're thinking of. Now, keep in mind, the United States Navy and U.S. Central Command got left of splash. We destroyed 99% of all their facility, of all their mine facilities and mine laying facilities.
Well, talk to me about the vessels or the equipment you would need. And now that we know what we're talking about, what do you need in the minesweeping mission to rid the seas of this and make it safe?
We have a incredible inventory that's led primarily by Navy EOD officers, which is my former line of work. It's my family's business. So what we do primarily, and you see unmanned underwater vehicles, part of expeditionary mine countermeasures. We are currently doing some searching right there. It's a little more low visibility. It's less out in the open, and it's less intense, but we're searching. We're hunting for mines, right? We're looking for anyone that's out there. You also have surface MCM. We have some of our littoral combat ships, and we also have 2 of our Avenger-class minesweepers, the USS Chief and USS Warrior, that are on their way as well, coming from Japan. And we also have airborne MCM, which are helicopters, both like that and also the very large helicopter that would tow sweeping and mining equipment. They're on their way from a very large ship, the USS John L. Canley, which is an expeditionary support base that's on its way from the Indian Ocean right now.
So the president has suggested that this is going to be a team effort. What role will the United States or will Iran play?
Great question, Laura. I can tell you one thing right now is that the United States Navy does not ask permission to operate in the Persian Gulf or anywhere around it. The United States Navy is the most powerful Navy in the world, and anything that is in the air or floats near it right now is doing so because the Navy is allowing it to do so. So we don't need Iranian permission to clear the strait. Now, if they want to provide some information to us saying, yes, we laid some mines here, here, and here, and we'll go get them, it's not an easy task. And it's not an easy task for the United States to pull any mines, even our own. I doubt the Iranians have any capability whatsoever, because if you remember, we destroyed their entire Navy. All that they have left are these little Gashti boats, which are like speed boats, where they might have kicked a few mines over the side in the middle of the night and where we missed them. So it's going to be a United States effort. Maybe we'll see some of our partners, but we'll see what happens.
What we want to know is how bad is the situation for stranded seafarers in the Persian Gulf. Joining me now, Arsenio Dominguez, head of the International Maritime Organization. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Just give us some of the stories you've been hearing from the Gulf.
Thank you for the opportunity. And the reality, as you said, is that as long as the crisis continue, it will get worse for the innocent seafarers that are trapped in there. We're counting around 20,000 of them that have been in the Persian Gulf, not able to leave since this conflict started. And for the longer it goes, the more difficult it will be to actually maintain their mental health, their levels of fatigue and stress. At the same time, the essential supplies that they need for to live on board the vessels. We're talking about water, food, and even fuel for the vessels to continue to be in the area.
Are they living off existing supplies? Presumably they can go to land and get other supplies.
But there are challenges to that. We have to remember that this is still an area in conflict and that some port facilities have been targeted and have been hit. Also, there's the challenges that the supplies are going up in cost. And of course, there's less supply that is also going into these countries because shipping is not being able to operate in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. So there is still the challenge on the provision of these supplies and the fact that very soon, if this extends, the countries in the regions will also have problems.
Take us through the mental pressures they're living through. As you say, it's a war zone. They're concerned about being hit. They want to get out, but they're going to be very concerned about going through the strait because of the threat of being hit for reasons way out of their control. Just what is that like for the people on those ships?
It's very critical, the situation. And of course, it's still safer to be there than venturing, trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz when there's the possibility of mines that can, of course, damage the ships, as well as the fact that they've been targeted by Iran if they cross without any agreement of notifications to them. And I had the opportunity to speak today with one seafarer that spent nearly 6 weeks in the Persian Gulf. And it was terrible to listen to the stress that him and his co-workers have been going through. The fact that at night, one of the main concerns was the debris of missiles that could fall in these vessels. And of course, some of them are carrying fuel, which immediately will ignite the vessels themselves. The fact that they have to change positions in order not to be targeted. They do get the support from the companies. And he was explaining in particularly how it was in this situation that they even managed to get some supplies. But they connect with each other in the different vessels that are all trapped there, nearly 2,000 vessels, and they exchange their experiences. But all of them just want to live. They want to carry on back to their lives when they provide for everyone around the world. They don't feel that they are recognized or even valued, and they're being used as leverage.
Yeah, it's a tragic situation. Arsenio Dominguez, really appreciate you bringing that to light for us.
How difficult and how long can the United States keep this up if they want to as a key pressure point to force Iran to negotiate?
Well, thank you for having me this morning, John. And it is a difficult challenge for our Navy. And I'm, of course, very proud of all our service members in the Middle East who are performing their missions very admirably. But as we know, naval blockades can be difficult to execute. This is about a 100-mile channel. Of course, at its narrowest point, it's about 6 miles wide with 2-mile transit channels going in either direction and a 2-mile buffer. It is obviously easy to control at its most narrowest point, but we're also conducting a naval blockade or a naval quarantine on about 10 to 11 other ports along the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman as well too. 5 strategic ports. Just yesterday there were several ships that were actually stopped from exiting Iranian ports. And so it is a difficult challenge, and it gets more difficult as time goes by as well, even with all the forces that we have in place.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, Secretary, because this is the Strait of Hormuz. People can see right here. This is the stretch where the shipping lane is only 2 miles long. This is the Persian Gulf or the Arabian Gulf, depending on how you say it. This is where so much of the focus has been. But a lot of the work being done in the blockade is down here in the Gulf of Oman, in this region here, and then out into the open sea. So you can see the level of U.S. forces that it would take, that it does take, to continue this, although by all accounts, at least right now, it is going well. I do want to focus on a threat that the Iranians make regularly. There's been an Iranian general who says, okay, if you continue to close the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S., we're going to look down here. We're going to look at the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait down here, where the Saudis and others have been using to get oil out there. How real is the threat of Iran to somehow close this strait?
Well, you're absolutely right, John. It is a real threat. And of course, Iran's greatest leverage over the current situation actually is the global economy and the negative impact that it will have on the global economy. So if they actually get their proxies in Yemen the Houthis to continue attacks in the Sea of Aden and through the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, then that creates additional pressure on the global economy as well too, that will create even more difficulty for the negotiations that are going on. And remember, we actually fought the Houthis for 2 years, from about September of 2023 to October of 2025. The cost of that conflict alone was about $12 billion, $6 billion per year. And of course, we're seeing the cost of the current conflict be more around $2 billion per month now. So this is a significant impact on our economy. It's a significant impact on the global economy.